Thomas, I've been thinking about something this week. The older I get, the more I realize that some of the people accomplishing the most are often carrying the most, as you can see. From the outside, they look successful, they look productive, they look like me, actually. They look like they have everything together, but underneath
No.
all of that, they're exhausted. And I can tell you because I get very exhausted. And it makes me wonder how many people are actually building successful lives while quietly carrying unresolved pain. Welcome,
Mm.
everyone, to another episode of the Purpose and Powerful Podcast. I'm Erica Lester, and as always, I'm joined by my co host, Thomas. Thomas, it's always good to see you. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing wonderful. You know,
Fantastic.
I always say I'm doing outstanding. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm standing at. But,
Yeah.
you know,
As long as you're
all
standing on
is
the
well.
rock, that's what matters.
Hey, it just depends on where the rock is at this point.
Indeed. I'm so glad to hear that.
Amen.
And I think tonight's conversation is one that's going to challenge all of us because it's easy to measure success by what people can actually see. It's much harder to ask what's happening beneath the surface. So before we jump in, if these conversations
Mm,
have been encouraging you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with
mm.
someone you care about. Tonight's episode is called Still Hurt, Still Hustling. And before we get into the conversation, I think we need to define at least two words because they'll shape everything we're about to discuss. So, the first definition we want to bring to the front is identity. And we'll give it the definition that it's
Identity.
who you are before you achieve anything and who you remain if you achieve nothing, right? Because when your identity is secure, your work becomes an expression of who you are, not an attempt to prove who you are. So, what you do, right? And then for hustle, that's our second
Would you say
definition.
what you do, or would you say what you have done,
So,
or what you're doing?
so definition wise, who you are before you achieve anything, right? And it's still who
Hmm.
you're going to remain if you achieve nothing at all. But when your identity is secure, your work becomes an expression of who you are, not an attempt to prove who you are. See, your work doesn't prove who you are, it just is an expression. Okay, hustle's
Hmm.
different. Hustle is relentless striving driven by the belief that your worth has to be earned. So purpose flows from identity. Hustle often flows from insecurity. So, Thomas,
Hmm.
let's start there because I think this is where our conversation really begins. So, looking back over your life, was there ever a season in your life that you can look back and realize you weren't just working
Mm,
hard,
mm.
you were just trying to prove something
I think that's every season of my life.
every season?
I mean, every season. I mean, we always, as men, and I have to talk as a man because I've never been a woman. Uh, and I can't talk in generalities because I believe that the struggle is different. It's totally different because we have set of goals. Those goals and expectation of what you're number one, what you're designed to be according to scripture, and then what you desire to be according to your goals, your objectives, your training, your background, and where you're being led. Um, so um, the so hmm. See, you be punching me sometimes. So so as we go through each season of life, we find that the goals and objectives are different. And where we are as men, I mean, as we change our seasons, as we go from a young man to a middle-aged man to an older man, changes. And I can look through the lens of my father and I still see different changes. Uh, because it all depends on who are you trying to satisfy? Uh, it's one thing to satisfy the people around yourself, satisfy God, satisfy your spouse, satisfy your children. satisfy your friends, satisfy your associates, satisfy your boss. All of those are different levels that you try to satisfy people on, and that becomes the struggle because each part of your life, I've come to a realization to your own self be true, and you have to find that truth. Now, if the question is that are there seasons in my life where I wasn't where I was not focused and going after my own truth? There's been that also, because those seasons are seasons when, yes, when I was a young man, I didn't know my truth because my truth was what everybody told me. My truth was what my dad and mom wanted me to be. My truth was what I signed up for in college to be. My truth was um, the army, what the army said I should be. Um, but none of those, and all of those truths was a little bit of what Thomas wanted and what Thomas desired. And for a very long time, I can say that I lived the truth of others until I start understanding which truths that I want to live for myself. I know that was a long way around, but I think that answered the question.
Stay there for a second. And can you talk about a particular season in your life on what you were trying to prove and why?
I mean, when I was a young man, I tried to prove my grandmother wrong that I was going to be something in my life. I was trying to prove a stereotype that I could be something beside a black man with a record. I was trying to prove that, you know, I could be successful and I can make something out of my life. And those are somewhat the same things, but they're not, because trying to prove that for my grandmother was one thing. Trying to prove that for myself was something totally different because I had different goals, different objectives, different likes, dislikes, different choice in where I wanted to be with women, different goals as for I wanted to be in life. And so I allowed, I believe that but one thing that I had going for me, I believe, was that I did trust God. Unknowingly, somewhat, but I did trust God because I didn't fight the direction that my life went. I fought stereotypes. I did fight, and I'll be honest with you, I fought homosexuality from a sense because I had friends that I did not know were homosexuals that were in the closet, and then they revealed themselves to me, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, I've been dealing with you for the last 4 years, and I didn't even know that this was it. And then they were trying to convince me to that lifestyle. I had to fight the identities of um, of the military, because the military tell you you had to be all this. This is what you be, and this is the kind of wife you need, and this is kind. You don't need a family. You need the military. The military is your family. If we had a wife, if you needed a wife, we would assign one to you. Stuff like that, and so you strive to be those things that others want you to be, but at the same time, uh, you have to fight for yourself. But now that's one season of life. Then the season of marriage. Season of marriage, there were times in my marriage that I wanted to please my wife and I wanted to do everything she did. But at that point, I had found one thing. I understood what worked for me. I understood the military was work for me. She says, and she asked this question, and I love her because she's smart. That's why I married her, right? She says, what is something that you would say that I should never do? Then I said, never make me make a choice between you and the army. I said, I married you before the army. I married you after I joined the army. The army is my life, and I'm going to stay in as long as I want to. Because I had friends um, that had gotten out because their wives um, or their husband was telling them that they did not want the army, and make a decision between me and the army, between them and the army. And I always strive to talk them out of allowing them to let their spouse make that decision for them. And I had at that point several that came back and said, I wish I never would have done that. And so looking at that, I made that my one of my first truths. Then I found the truth of my relationship with God. Um, I had an accident when I was in college. Well, when I was after I got married, I had a relationship. I had an time when God and I had a one-on-one conversation. Well, I believe it was a one-on-one. It was, and you know, I had to make a decision on whether I was going to serve God or was I going to do what man wanted me to do. Uh, and I, and one was about integrity in the army, but another one was about integrity with myself. Be true to me. Who was I going to be? A man of God in a military uniform, or a military uniform trying to serve God at the same time? And a lot of us live in the suit trying to serve God instead of being a man that serving God, loves God in a suit. Because I chose to make God my precedence and not man. So looking at those, and that became a lot easier for me because when you start serving God, you start understanding the truth. And everybody want to stand behind that. The truth shall make you free. The truth can make you free, and the truth shall make you free. But it's not the truth that makes you free. Living the truth makes you free. Living in the truth makes you free. Many of us don't want to live in the truth. And sometimes that truth is ugly because it forces us to face ourselves. Um, so, um, and the truth challenges you to look at pieces of your life that you really don't want to look at. You know, uh, being a people pleaser, uh, lying to please people and to make sure they get the answer they want, but at the same time get you out of trouble, or to keep a certain lifestyle going, but not understanding that the lie still catches up with you over time, and things like that. Uh, did I answer the question?
Absolutely. I loved how you went from the season. You definitely talked about, what you did to prove yourself to others based on several truths that they had, even though there were parts of it that you wanted. Then you moved straight on into identity, to discovering and uncovering who you were meant to be, who you were supposed to be, until you found your own truth, right? And once you found
Right,
that truth that you were supposed to be a man of God in a military uniform, that gave you freedom. And the important part is, people love to say, live your truth. But as you pointed out, the truth can sometimes be ugly, but there's this beautiful part of truth that makes us feel good, because until you can get to the point of saying what your truth is, you're really just going to stay hurt and insecure.
right, because you're trying to hide from the truth. And
And
I
then you're really
love
just
that.
living for somebody else's approval until you run into the ugly truth to get the freedom that you've been searching for.
Yeah, and a few good men actually. I really didn't understand what Gene I couldn't understand what the colonel was saying when he says, "You can't handle the truth." And when we say that, do we really, and what he was actually saying is there, and he somewhat said it in there are things that happen in the dark that you will never want to see, that will drive nightmares, that will give you nightmares, that will give you things that you would never want to think, and you want to tell your children. And when we look at that, there are things in our lives that does give us nightmares of what we have done, what we have said, what we have seen, and things that we won't even tell. We don't even want to. It's not bad. It's not as we don't want to tell our spouses or our kids. We don't want to tell ourselves. Did I do that? Am I doing that? Am I being a man of integrity? Or am I being a liar? Am I being a cheat? Or am I being a womanizer? Am I doing this? Um, you know, and it's not all bad, because now you can also tell the truth that I am good. I can speak. I can sing. I can do strategic thinking. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Is Christ strengthening me in this area? God, where do I need to be in order to get this strength? God, send me these people. Can I understand? Can I trust? Can I believe? Can I pull down my armor enough to show my scars and my wounds? Um, and to build relationships and bonds that can truly pass, and find those true brothers and sisters that you can actually trust, believe, have faith in. Uh, the Bible tells us to trust no man, but that's a different kind of trust. Trust as a brother, the Bible tells us there's no greater friend than one that lays down his life for a friend. And so when we find that brother and that sister that'll lay down their life for you, then we find somebody that we can truly trust. Uh, and to build those relationships, to have those conversations, and to be true, so that you don't worry about what a person is going to think of you. You're going to be more concerned about what the person sees in you. And you're not going to worry about, is this person valuable enough to keep around? You're just not going to care, because you allow God to do that. And you keep moving and understand who God is putting in your life and taking out of your life, and not fighting either.
I think
So,
that's, yeah, I think what you did is you really just explained for us, really in a profound and a deep way, the identity side of dealing with hurt, pain, the
so
mask of it
not
all.
so much to dealing with, but understanding who you are,
But
the
some people don't
identity of
get,
you.
but some people don't get to the understanding. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so in the identity side, you identify my truth is I'm a man of God in a military uniform. But other people haven't got to that truth. So what they've done instead is they've compensated for their identity by choosing hustle. So right now they are working long hours, chasing money, building a career or a business, and they're just focused on trying to accomplish the next thing, when actually all it's doing is allowing them to keep running from dealing with whatever truth that they believe or have not taken the time to realize for themselves. So some people, like you said, opposite. Some people are in a military uniform trying to be a man of God, woman of God, or whatever. The other way. Fit God into this nice little knit box or neat box of success. Success looks like this when they know inside it's nowhere near. Right.
And I would actually add to that and said, the base foundation should never change. And that's the challenge that I have with a lot of people. First, I'm a man. That's your basic foundation. Or I'm a woman. What did God make you? What's your faith base? If your faith base is God, then you already know I'm a woman or I'm a man, because that's what God made me. So my mind and my thoughts may say one thing, and my spirit might even tell me something different. But what God made me is what I am. If He gave me every functionality that I have to be a man or a woman, then I should become that. That becomes my foundation. Now, everything from that starts and begins, and starts to flow. So I'm a man of God. So now I'm a man that believes in God. And so many times we change. So that foundation never changes. So now I'm a man of God. I'm a man of God that's in a military uniform. Guess what? That season is gone. Now I'm a man of God that's retired from the military, that's a pastor and a father and a husband and a counselor And you know, and but at the beginning of it is I am a man of God. And so once we set that permanent foundation, everything else begins to flow. So I'm a man that's in the military that loves God, that is a father. Now all of those other things change, but if we can't get I'm a man right or I'm a woman right and then move forward. Now once we get I'm a man right, now what's the next thing that's a solid that doesn't move inside of that picture? And so we have to keep building the picture so that the picture never changes from one sense. I can put on a whole different set of clothes, but the person underneath never changes. The picture just have Thomas Arrington in a turquoise shirt, whereas another one's going to have me in a business shirt. But the man underneath never changes. And that's, I think, in this that hustle that you're talking about is trying to find that balance so that we can become solid, we can stand, and we stop hanging on. That's why, in my sense, that's why we hang on, because we're hanging on to something that's going to perish. We're hanging on to stuff that's tangible and not something that's untangible, something that's solid. And you know, building our foundation around that, building our foundation around careers, building our foundation around women, or our spouses, or our children, you know, making those our rocks that we stand on. I'm a man that has a wife. Okay, the wife can disappear. I'm a man that loves my children. Okay, your children can disappear. But I'm a man of God that loves my wife, that loves my children. But the man of God never changes, if that makes sense. So building that, I believe that many times we do not build a solid foundation before we start trying to build a house of who we are. I build the body of who we are. Because, um, you know, there's a lot of things we can hope that make us look successful, but there are not a lot of things that can make us content. That makes sense? So, you know, just out of the blue, what did you hope success would give you? Just you. What did you think success would give you? What were you looking for in success?
Well, um, as an
Let you talk a
employee,
while.
sure. As an employee, I had hoped success would give me everything that education was, or foundationally it was supposed to based on society. People told you
Mm-hmm.
that if you got an education and you got a good job, you would be able to be successful, right? And then, of course,
Mm-hmm.
stay out of jail and stay off the pole,
Mm.
or female. Okay. That worked for a while, but that was not ultimately God's plan for me. So when I was holding on tight to the whole job thing, God redirected and said, "No, I want you to start a business." And then that just became different. But underneath it all, my identity, like you said, the foundation's intact. He just made sure I've been me. And through my evolution, as you said, your analogy was changing shirts, that I've stayed core to the foundational belief that I knew that all my success, my good success, my God success was always rooted in Him. Once I got to that particular truth, then everything else didn't matter. For example, um, I learned years ago to look at things as God is my source and everything else is my resource. And I would say this is back in 2015. So even though I've been in business, my business, Lester Accounting Services, has been in business since 2009. I worked a job alongside it and then did that for 5 years until 2014. And so 2015, I'm getting ready to go to a trip to New York with my aunts. And it's tax extension season and extended tax returns, and I'm in the office about 12, 14, 18-hour days. And leading into that day, that morning of, I was like, okay, I stopped by. I think I got like a coffee or something like that. And I came in and I started working. And then I think I got in about 6 a.m. And then I said, well, let me break for lunch. I did that around 11:30 or so. Actually 1 o'clock because I would have waited into then. So this is 1 o'clock. I'm going to Captain D's. I'm ordering two piece fish dinner, double green beans, large sweet tea, light ice, whatever. I'm
Oh, remember
driving
me?
back to the office, right? And like I said, this is October 2015, September, actually September, it was September 15th. I'll never forget it. So I'm driving back to the office. I get everything out of the office. Remember, my mind is on go. I've been up till like 2:30 in the morning before, went to sleep, got up, took a shower, got dressed, back at the office at 6 o'clock. So I got a lot of things to cover, a lot of ground to cover. And here I am, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, just taking a small break just to get something to eat. I got out of the car, got everything out of the car, and I dropped that tea because the lid wasn't on, and
Hmm.
just a little bit of squeeze, that tea went everywhere. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. That's all. And I went home and I laid down. I went and took a break, a longer break, and I stayed home till about 2:30, 3 o'clock, came on back. I mean, that kind of destroyed my afternoon. And so now I'm here about 9 o'clock in the evening, and I'm like, this makes no sense. I literally am up here trying to save these clients and doing some last minute work that they gave me some last minute documents. And this is ridiculous. Everybody's at home. These clients are safe, tucked in bed, safe and tucked in their beds underneath their sheets, resting comfortably. And I'm like, I have been at this for so many hours for the last couple of days. You know what I did? I said, you know what? That's it. I'm gonna finish this last tax return. I'm gonna extend the rest of these bad boys, and I'm going home because you know what? It wasn't that important for them, and they had the same awareness of the deadlines. And why am I
Mm.
up here? I could work these next 2.5 hours to midnight and try to get these things on the finish line. But I'm like, you know what? It really ain't that serious. I'm gonna follow with
Mm.
the information I have. I'm not even going to try to perfect it, and we can always amend that later. And that's what I'm gonna do. And that's what I did. And I did that. And I've been doing it ever since, actually. And that was so stressful because actually I prided myself on always making sure that nothing went past those extended deadlines, that I had no tax returns hanging over. Even if the client had give me information, I was going to do everything that I could to make sure. And I wasn't believing it. And I said, you know, Lord, you could burn this whole place down, really. Because at the end of the day, all that matters is if I have you. The clients are interchangeable. You are my source. These are resources, and just like you brought them, you can bring the next one. I'm never going to put this much hope and faith in nothing, in anything other than you. And that became my core
Mm.
foundational identity, my belief, and everything past that point. And so I look at it as now it's like new clients, new relationships, new things, new circumstances. These are assignments. And when the end of my assignment comes, I'm not going to hold on to it. I'm just going to move on to the next one. So I would say then I was hustling. I was successful because I was hustling. I was getting it done. I was making it happen. And now does not mean the same thing. My
Mm.
success is God's success. Did I handle my assignment appropriately? Did I do everything that I could do to the end and the best of my ability and do what God called me to do in this particular assignment? If that answer is yes, that is all that I need. I no longer
Mm.
stress myself out. And not that I'm not concerned, is that I can't do more than what He allows, and I cannot do more than where He says this is a stop. I'll be dropped
Mm.
out dead. There's many people in my profession who have literally done that: heart attacks, suicides, all kind of things because of the stress and the pressure of feeling like they have to
Mhm.
accomplish it for people and not understanding that God put them in those people's lives to accomplish something else. That was to minister to them in the way that He's designed them to do so. And maybe that has been, let's do a tax return, but I can tell you, after 17 years, it's ministry. Yes, I'll complete the assignment, but I spend more of my time connecting relationships, building relationships, and ministering to people where their need and their hurt really is, where their pain really is. And it's not about the assignment of the work. Sometimes it's just understanding the difference between that person just needed to feel whole and that it was possible to get this thing done. And other times it was just more or less somebody just needed to show them kindness and make them give them the education or give them the tools, the resources, or the knowledge to feel like they had the power to do it themselves.
Mm.
And so, that those indirect lessons really is what shaped me to build my foundation and understand that I don't want any success if God is not attached.
And so now I love your story, um, and your successes. And I've been around you since you started the taxes. I think maybe I was your like, I don't know. I want to say I was your first non-commercial assignment, but anyway, I don't know.
Yes.
But
Of course. I love it. That's a great description.
so the but inside of all of that, um, when did you? So you've talked about how you slowed down and what caused you to slow down, and what was that breaking point. But then the question is, when did it change from the value of you as a business owner versus the value of you as a person? Because I know you had a lot of things, and I was there when the business was primary. The how did you come to the recollection that the business that you were more than your business?
Um, so many stories. So I had a
What was the one that broke the camel's back? How about that?
I don't even think it was the main thing that broke the camel's back. I think what it is, I started to see the shift between, the work is always the work. And
Hmm.
and here I was. I had the most struggle when I was doing the business alongside being an employee. So I would, on a days off, whether the college gave us, we had 19 holidays or whatever. If the college gave us a day off, like we had spring break off, right? A week there. Every time I had time off from work, I had put that into the business. So I would send a client an email, tell them exactly what I needed them to have ready or for our appointment or whatever have you. And I kept running into numerous situations where they would not be prepared. I'm thinking like, it's not like I sent you that email yesterday. And I was
Right.
very specific and very detailed. See, a lot of times the clients didn't know, most of the time they didn't know that I actually worked a job. I got to be a point in that last year and a half where I was running a full-time business on part-time hours. And so I would
Mm.
have a whole day lined up that I'm spending this much time with this client. I got that next client, that next client, that next client. And I had a whole full day. And I would run into situations as though I tried in vain that I knew the exact amount of time I would need. And if they had everything ready or even part of that ready, I would be in and out within a certain period of time. I knew that I would only need to talk with them for 30 minutes, even though I planned an hour and a half, to go over documents, to answer questions, and do different things. And I kept running into situations where they weren't prepared and it would be so unnerving. But I always had to fix my face. AKA, as annoyed as I was, that is not why God had me there. These people would share things with me that had nothing to do with the reason why I was there. And I would be like, oh my God, I'll be running into this. I start asking about, okay, tell me about your business or tell me about this or what you need to have done, whatever. And it would be out of nowhere waterworks of um, things. And I began to uncover that if you ask somebody about their finances, you're really asking about their life. It's the most intimate thing that
Mm.
touches every single thing in their life. And I can't even tell you how many marriages I probably helped save Because there are people who had great marriage relationships or great relationships where wives or something would tell me, oh, no, I don't have nothing to do with that. I don't even want to be bothered with that. Yeah, I'm not helping them with that, whatever it would be. And I said this, I went to somebody's home. This is the one that really, I went to their home and I said, hey, you got this issue that I'm here for, but I also identified this other issue that I want you to be aware of because that issue may come calling one day. And my job is to tell you the right way to do it. And then you make the decision from there so that you are aware
Mm.
that, hey, they may come ask. And they did. They actually did a few years later, but it wasn't brand new to them. And, we had already prepared for if they did come asking, this is what the response would be. And it worked out to their good. But while I'm sitting there and I see the dynamic of stress between the husband and the wife, and I just was led to just tell them, I said, listen, here's the thing. Okay, she's doing everything that she can to help you, and she's working a job too. You're at the business, you're at the shop, you're bringing this stress home. You're not thinking that it's affecting her, but it's really affecting her. And you guys actually have a really wonderful and a great marriage relationship. I said, but the things from the business are going to end up causing you problems in the thing that's good. You're not doing the business to save the marriage. You need to save your marriage to save this business. It's not the other way around. And the husband said, can you excuse me for a few minutes? And the wife, and then he walks out the door. Like actually walks out the door for a minute. And the wife was like, I don't think you understand what's happening. And I was like, it's okay, it's okay. He came back, he said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let you work on this, we're gonna let you help us with this, we're gonna pay you, we're gonna do this, that, and the third. I'm gonna do this when I get back to the shop. Come to the shop, tell me what I need to get done, tell me what I need to get straight. Because I've just decided this is gonna be cheaper than hiring a marital counselor at this point. I was like, wow, okay. So the next day, the wife called me. She said, I don't think you, she said, I was telling you last night, I don't think you understand. She said, when I first met my husband, we both had some rough times. And there was a point in his life where he actually was racist. And she said, I know two things about him right now. I know that he respects you, and I know that he believes that you can help us because where I've seen him come
Mm.
from. And today, this is like one of the biggest client supporters I've ever had who will have my back to the fullest. But it was
Mm.
really just, I think I didn't get it until I got it in that situation when he said, it just be how easier than hiring a marriage counselor. And it'll cost me less. So let me let you know. But their marriage is great. He's retired. He sold the business twice over. He sold that business, and then he was retired for a few years, and he had another business, and he just sold that one earlier this year. So it's been good.
Amen.
It's been great. And I just say that I owe it all to the Lord because what he did is he just had to slow me down and recognize that this was ministry, even though I didn't really understand that. I was just like, can these people just get it together? Can they just have what I asked them to have? Can they just be ready when I come? Can they reschedule if they don't have everything together? I was so annoyed by that. And it's blessed my soul because I've learned a lot about what it is to serve from these situations. And I've learned a lot about giving grace to people and really being understanding in a situation that I could have totally been a professional, be like, what, this is a bit much. I can't take this on. But what I love about this unique particular story is that
Hmm.
my rental house needed some significant repairs, and the tenant just left my house trashed. And the money
Hmm.
that I made from that one project fixed all the repairs. And I made that money in less than like 75 days. And I was
Mm.
able to do all that renovation and have that property back online in a month, like a month and a half.
Amen.
So praise God. I mean, tell you what, but like they were a blessing and I was a blessing to them. Like I said, I never knew like all the things they had gone through before I got there. But the Lord is still holding together for them today. But I'm just saying, this is a scripture I lean on. The blessings of the Lord maketh rich and he has no sorrow with it. So every time I feel like the success question is rising up, I remember that. I'd rather have his blessings, not someone's finances, not a check they can stroke, not a little conversation or connection they can make. It's God's success. His his ability to give me the success to open doors that no man can open, shut doors and close them that no man can as well. I love it. That's the best.
Amen. Amen. Whew, that was
So
a
yeah,
lot.
before then, I was hustling. Before I recognized that space, I was hustling. Success looked like more clients, more revenue. Was able to transition off of the job because I was making as much money in the job or in the business that I made at the job. And I knew there was time to leave. But when I left, that business could pay its own bills. It couldn't pay mine. But my faith was bigger than that. My face said, I don't care what he's doing, what the numbers look like, because when he gave it to me, I had nothing. So it's easy to make that transition and say, well, I have everything I need. God is my
Amen.
source.
Amen. So you kind of went around the world on me. But that's okay. I do that all the time with you.
You answered 3 or 4 questions in one. Let me
So,
ask you a question.
what?
What's one lie you believed about success?
That success will make you happy.
It
That
doesn't?
success provides. So what now?
It doesn't? Why
So,
not? What's the lie? The
so,
lie is success will make you happy. Why or why
so
not?
here's why. Because you have to determine what happy is for you. Because you can be happy, but you're not content. You're happy, but you're not fulfilled. To me, happy is being mentally, physically, and spiritually fulfilled. So money could give me success in one sense, gave me uh it gave me so I was in the military for 29 years. So when I got to be a captain, I was in unpitchable because I was sitting there in a command. I was like, I'm successful. Then I wanted to be a major because then I wanted to be a lieutenant colonel. Then I wanted to be a colonel. Then I wanted to be a general. And so so every time I got to be successful, I wanted more to be more successful. So I wasn't happy with where I was. Um, but success has to put, make, be at each step of the way. And it's one thing to be successful, it's another thing to be happy and content with that success. And so that's why I say yes and no, because um, yes, I was happy that I was successful, but and then at the same time I wasn't content with being successful because there was more to get and not being celebrating. As we say sometimes, I was celebrating what I was given, the gift, and not really celebrating that which that had given it to me. In my business, I celebrated success for owning the business. But, then I wanted to expand the business quickly. Then I got to a point that I lost the business because I expanded too quickly because I didn't know the business. So, um, understanding what success means, and success should be a step by step process and not something that you just rush into, and something that you put as a goal on the wall because a goal has to have some foundation to it. It goes back to what's your foundation for it, and what is the purpose of it, and what does success look like. In the military, um, we always have objectives. What is meeting 80% of that objective look like versus what is meeting 100% of that objective looks like? And what does success? Is success 70%, 80%, 90%? Are, that which of? And so in life, we have to put markers on that success, because if we don't put definite markers on that, then we will always be chasing success, if that makes sense. Um, mm,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I'm good with that.
I like it.
I'm dropping the mic on that one right there. Because I can go on that, but I'm gonna leave it right there. Yeah.
Well, I would just ask this final question then. Um,
Mm.
I know, right? If someone who's listening is exhausted from trying to prove themselves, going back to the identity
Uh-oh.
versus the hustle side, they're trying to prove themselves through the lens of success while ignoring the identity part. What would you tell them based on our
Uh,
conversation?
ask the question. Ask this one question. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why do I want to accomplish that which I'm striving to accomplish? If you're exhausted from constantly trying to prove that you're worthy, successful, respectable, lovable, or enough, eventually there's no accomplishment will satisfy you very long because you're going to be chasing something else. So you always need another one. So you keep building, you keep growing, you keep pursuing purpose. But so you can do all those things, but don't make your accomplishment responsible for telling you who you are. You are who you are. You are the man or the woman that God made you to be. And that's not going to change. So start finding who you are and being comfortable in that skin. And don't let nobody else define that. You define that for yourself. And as a man of faith, you define that with God. Because that's who's going to give you. My mom always told me this: you have a life to live. Actually, my dad too. You have a life to live, a goal to read, and a God to serve. Until you find what your life should be, you can't determine your goal. Until you find out who God is in your life, you can't live your life. It's a circle. You can't do one without the other. So you're more than what you believe you are, because you're more than what you know. So the three things that we have, I'm not going to go along with. I promise you, I'm not. But with the three battles that we have in life are man against nature, man against man, and man against himself. And the greatest fight is man against himself, because we don't know us,
Mhm.
and we don't know our limitations, and we don't know how far we can go. And many of us live within the realm of medium, not understanding how deep we can go, and definitely not trying to claim how high we can go. And so we get stuck in the middle, being afraid to climb and being afraid to go down. But we have to know both limits, close to both limits. We ain't got to know them totally, but we have to know enough to keep climbing and to keep ourselves from going deeper. Uh, but in us, we got to go deeper to know us and to know what's going to keep what our triggers are, and how do we allow God to manage that, help us manage that. I heard a person say today, um, God don't, you don't need my permission to do what you want to do in my life. That's true. But God gave us one thing, and that's free will. So God is not going to do nothing in your life unless you allow him to do it, because you got the final say. God owns your life, but he don't run your life. You do. I'm done.
That's a great close and answer to the question. So I think that's a great place for us to end tonight. Why am I doing what I'm doing? That's a question worth sitting with. Everything that you just explained. Because whether the battle's with someone else, within ourselves, or with circumstances we simply cannot control, we have to know our foundation, know who we are, and understand what's driving us. Tonight wasn't about telling anyone to stop working hard. It's about making sure we understand why we're working so hard. Are we chasing
Mm,
something, proving something, avoiding something, or are we simply walking in the purpose God has given us? Thank you for joining us tonight for Still Hurt, Still Hustling. If this conversation challenged you, please like,
mm,
share, and subscribe to the Purpose and Power podcast. Until next time, don't just ask yourself what you're doing, ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like Thomas said, to understand three battles: man against man against self, and man against nature. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you on the next episode. Have a great
mm.
night, Thomas.
Have a great night.
You
I'm
too.
gonna be quiet. Mm. I got a thought, and I really want to say it, but I'm good. I'll leave it
We're
alone.
gonna save it for next time. See you
Yes.
on the next one.